What's going on, all you Minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and today I'm going to do an overview of the Omega Man Deluxe hardcover from DC Comics, so please stay tuned. And welcome back, all you Minties. Now, before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to DC Comics for sending us a copy of this deluxe edition. Now, it should be available at all of online retailers and comic book stores when they open back up. We had some delays because of Diamond, but I believe that this book is now out everywhere online. So, this is the Omega Man Deluxe Edition, and what that means, it's taller than your average trade paperback, taller than your average standard size hardcover, so as tall as an omnibus, but not as thick. The retail price of this book is $49.99, and it does contain all 12 issues of the Omega Man, maxi series by Tom King, and several artists, which we'll talk about here in a few. So let's look at it under the dust jacket. This has been available before in, I believe, 2 trade paperbacks, and that's the cover of volume 1, I want to say. I've been waiting for this edition, so I never did buy the trades, but I did read the series when it came out digitally, and going back to it, I read it this past weekend. So let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, so let's open it up. It's got some black bookend pages. Tom King, Barnaby Bagenda, Toby Cypress, Iguara, Jose Marzan Jr. are the main artists in the book. Here are all the people that put this collected edition together, like Jeb Woodard, Erica Rothberg, and Steve Cook. This is a brief little intro as to what you're about to read. If you've not read Omega Man, I have to talk about something important, and that's in the very first few pages. And so, just in case, there is going to be just a little spoiler in here, but, if you're keeping up with DC, or if you know anything about superhero comics, it's just a little spoiler. So, it kicks off with the kidnapping of Kyle Rayner. Kyle Rayner was the Green Lantern that took over Hal Jordan after he lost his mind and became the Parallax. Kyle Rayner eventually became the White Lantern. So, he's a White Lantern during this era, and this era takes place during the DC New 52. So if you want to go back and watch my Green Lantern reading order, by all means, please do, because I do tell you where to read this book. So he gets kidnapped because he's trying to break some laws and go into a territory that Lanterns are not allowed to go into. And he is kidnapped by the Omega Men and taken hostage, and they make a demand. Now, something happens to Kyle that's pretty brutal, but it doesn't stay, let's say. Let's just say that whatever happens to him at the beginning, rest assured, he's in the rest of the book. So that's the one spoiler I was going to talk about. I'm not going to show exactly what happens, but maybe you can tell. And you can also tell that this is definitely Tom King because he has the 9-panel layout. So as I was saying, the Guardians of the Universe, the Guardians, not the Galaxy, I almost call them the Galaxy, the little blue guys that give the Green Lanterns their rings, will not let any of the Lanterns go into this sector. They don't want any of the Corps to interfere. So like I was mentioning, Kyle's a White Lantern, and he wants to go and help. So he agrees to meet with the Citadel and the Viceroy here, and he gives the Viceroy, as a sign of trust and peace, his ring, which of course is a mistake. Come on, Kyle. Well, there's Kyle right there, speaking in Spanish, in case we forget. My boy Kyle is bilingual. Yeah, I love Hal Jordan, but to me, Kyle Rayner was always my Green Lantern, or is the one that I read when Ron Mars was on the book, and then eventually Judd Winnick, and he just became my favorite Lantern. So that's basically the premise. It is Kyle's intervention with the terrorists that are attacking the Citadel in the sector that Lanterns are not supposed to be in. My God, the art. We'll talk about the art too. And it doesn't go according to plan. He sees things from different perspectives, changes his mind, changes his allegiance. So that's pretty much all I will say about that. Other than the fact that if you want to read this book, it is more like almost like a Kurosawa film mixed with Blade Runner and mixed with sci-fi elements. That's what this reads like. But it's Tom King, so you know the kind of things to expect when you're looking at his work. You're dealing with war, you're dealing with violence, you're dealing with terrorism, religion, PTSD, oppression. So it's not your average story featuring the Omega Man. So, speaking of the Omega Man, this is a new retelling retcon of the Omega Man. This is a new introduction to the Omega Man that is still canon to this day. Mainly because this was introduced during the New 52 era. And what does that mean? Well, the Omega Man have been around for quite a while. I think since 81. They were introduced in an issue of Green Lantern. Was it Wolfman or Giffen? One of them created the Omega Man. So these characters have been around. However, some of them died. I think some of them died in Invasion. There have been many retellings or retcons of their origin. But now, this is the latest incarnation of the Omega Man. So you don't need to have read anything about the Omega Man before reading this. As a matter of fact, really what you need to know is just that Kyle Rayner, instead of being a Green Lantern, is now a White Lantern. Well, let's go back towards the front so we don't spoil anything. Towards the ending there. But in case you are familiar with the Omega Man or who their team is made up of, you do have Tigor, he's back, Primus is back, Brute, there's a new Doc, Scraps, and this lady right here, Callista. And that's all I will say. There are some surprise characters that make an Omega Man team appearance, but I will leave it at that. So you could probably tell this, the art changes. So there's 3 main artists, but most of the time it's done by Barnaby Bagenda, or Bagenda. Seriously, his artwork is stellar, and he's the one that provides most of the illustrations, like the one I was showcasing with this amazing fight right here. It is so easy to follow and just so well choreographed. And the colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Sometimes I can get those Latin names in there. Are just so awesome. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Christian Ward's art or Pasquale Ferry's artwork during the Ranthanagar storyline. And even though they look cartoony, there's a lot of detail in there. Reminds me sometimes of like Kenneth Rocafort. And you get to see my boy Kyle show his art skills again. And as I'm flipping through here, you can probably tell that the colors also have this orangey filter to it. I love when they do that. I love when they do that. They use different filters in movies, so I love it when they do it in comic books. It's almost like you're looking at the story through a window that hasn't been cleaned. I'm not sure if that even makes any sense to anybody, but that's the way some of these filters look to me in this artwork. So, I talked a little bit about the plot, and I talked about the artwork. But Tom King, right? He's either loved or some people don't like his writing. He is the gentleman that wrote Vision. He's the gentleman that wrote Mr. Miracle. He is currently writing an Adam Strange storyline, which I need to read that. But he's also the one that wrote Batman, or is writing Batman. And his Batman, at least to me, has had its ups and definitely its downs. And I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people feel that way. So he's kind of hit and miss for some people. To me, I think Vision was a masterpiece, but I had to take my prior knowledge of Vision or any of the characters that appeared in Vision out of the element in order to fully enjoy it. And I think that's what I did with this book. Yes, it's still Kyle Rayner at heart, but for some reason there are times that I was like, Kyle would not do that. But you know what? I still really enjoyed this book. It is beautiful to look at. It's wonderful and rough to read. There are some brutal parts in this storyline that makes it feel like a real war, like a real terroristic attack, like what would happen, you know, and we've seen these stories before in movies and in books and in comic books, but not really when it involves our characters from our normal or from the regular universe. So it was like throwing a normal character like Kyle, who was a Green Lantern, now a White Lantern, into this mess of a realistic war. Now, let's look at the extras in the back. So we have a bonus gallery. The end is here. It's a little hard to read, but whenever you're looking at the spine, it's a little hard to read Omega Man. And the characters. So, like I said, Primus, Tigor, Callista, and all the others. The background of how this storyline first started. Variant covers, character designs by Bagenda. Or Bagenda. There's Kyle. Love that design. And then coloring. Well, I haven't read this. That's cool. different steps to coloring, cover sketches. That's one thing I love about this series too, that I didn't mention as I was flipping through here, are these almost propaganda-like posters that make the covers. Love that about this series. The paper quality is thick and glossy. The book has 304 pages. As far as the binding, it is sewn binding. Not much of an eye, but honestly, when you read a Tom King story, or if you know much about his stories, there's really like zero splash pages because he works in panels and that's the way that he likes to write his stories. I can think of maybe one or two in here, but that's about it. So if you haven't read this, I strongly suggest reading this. To me, I think this is just as good as Sheriff of Babylon. I really enjoyed it and I could not put it down. Even when I got it this past weekend, I was not able to put it down again, even though I've read it before. So if you want to purchase this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor,
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you Minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
And that was the contents of the book, the build of the book, and the page count. Please don't forget to leave those comments down below if you've read this, if you own them in single issues, trade paperbacks, and you're going to upgrade. Or if you've never read it and you have been waiting for this deluxe edition. I would love to know all those comments down below. Please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications. We can be found on Patreon and Redbubble, and all of that information is in the description down below. More importantly, please everybody stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love to you all.